Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Members of Parliament, fellow Fijians watching locally and abroad. Bulare, Bulasia. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to respond to the address delivered by His Excellency at the opening of Parliament on Monday, 16 February. His Excellency's address was principled, forward-looking, and grounded in the realities faced by our people. It set three clear governing principles: unity in diversity, sustainability and resilience, and integrity in governance. Mr. Speaker, sir, my ministry's response gives practical effect to these principles through our core mandate. His Excellency truly identified that poverty and household hardship are critical national concerns. Mr. Speaker, sir, reviewing and modernizing Fiji's labor standards is the ministry's most direct response to this reality. Work remains the most sustainable pathway out of poverty. However, work must be accessible, safe, fairly paid, and protected by law. The right to work, as enshrined in the Constitution, is fundamental to dignity and opportunity. Mr. Speaker, sir, in this context, wage policy must respond responsibly to cost of living pressures. In 2024, the coalition government progressively increased the minimum wage, the national minimum wage, from $4 to $5 within a period of 7 months. This was a 25% increase, and not in drips and drabs, as was done in the past. Similarly, the 10 sectorial wages were also increased in 2 tranches. The tripartite wages councils will continue to review and adjust wages periodically, Mr. Speaker, sir. Tripartism, in its true sense, has been reinstated by the coalition government after 1.5 decades. Mr. Speaker, sir, on labor complaints resolution and recovery of wages in the last 7 months, my ministry has settled 484 complaints with a total recovery of more than 795,000 unpaid wages for affected workers, well over 100,000 a month. Mr. Speaker, sir, labor mobility programs continue to make a significant contribution to household well-being. In 2025 alone, over 2,000 Fijians participated in the PALM and RSE work schemes. Remittances from these programs surpassed $1 billion, directly supporting families through household expenses, education, housing, healthcare, and small business investment. We have strengthened the pre-departure preparation, improved in-country support mechanisms, and enhanced reintegration pathways to ensure that skills gained overseas are productively used by returning workers. Mr. Speaker, sir, through cooperation with our partner governments, 4 country liaison officers have been appointed in Australia and 1 in New Zealand to provide direct assistance to our workers. Mr. Speaker, sir, an important development was the Family Accompaniment Pilot Program under the PALM scheme. Since its introduction in 2024, about 90 families have participated in the program. This initiative reduces the social strain of long-term separation, supports families' well-being, and strengthens the overall benefits for Fijian workers and their families. The Ministry is finalizing the review of the National Employment Policy, which focuses on promoting decent work, strengthening labor market systems, and supporting skills development and entrepreneurship. By expanding employment opportunities, especially for youth, women, and vulnerable groups, the policy aims to reduce poverty and hardship while improving household incomes and economic resilience. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency emphasized that every citizen must share in national progress. My ministry is advancing this commitment through inclusive labor market initiatives. We are expanding employment access across rural and maritime as well as urban communities through job fairs, structured work attachments, and volunteer programs. We continue to enforce anti-discrimination provisions and strengthen maternity protections for women in the workforce as well as people with disabilities. At the same time, we are supporting youth employment and entrepreneurship while ensuring that Fijian workers, both at home and abroad, are protected through effective labor standards. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency made it clear that economic growth must create decent work. The Ministry has reviewed two important legislations which are currently before the Standing Committee. The Employment Relations Bill 2025 modernizes employment standards and aligns them with international standards. It strengthens compliance, reinforces equal opportunity, and protects key worker rights in relation to minimum terms and conditions of employment. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Work Care Bill 2025 modernizes workplace accidents, compensation systems, and integrates them with occupational health and safety prevention and oversight. It ensures timely compensation for injured workers while strengthening rehabilitation and return to work systems. Both these bills are to be tabled in the next session of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, sir, improving workplace safety is also a priority. In partnership with the Ministry of Trade and relevant agencies, we have launched an online OHS portal for general workplace inspections and building permit approval systems to streamline approvals and reduce processing times for businesses. Mr. Speaker, sir, since 1st January 2024, my ministry has been processing employment and school accident cases transferred from the ACCF under the existing no-fault compensation scheme. For this financial year, as of February 2026, we have paid out $6.9 million for 590 pending cases. Mr. Speaker, sir, in addressing current challenges in our labor market, the coalition government has introduced outcome-based initiatives. The first one, the government has incentivized and refreshed the apprenticeship scheme by topping up wages from $3 to $5 an hour. In the last two budgets, Mr. Speaker, sir, 401 awards were provided, and this is expected to increase in the next budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, tertiary institutions have been encouraged to increase intakes in TVET with provisions of scholarships. According to the graduate employability data supplied by the Fiji National University, Fiji recorded a significant number of local graduates between 2023 and 2024 across the various colleges. In 2023, there were a total of 3,644 graduates, with records indicating that approximately 75% were in employment at the time of the data extraction. In 2024, the total number of graduates was 3,211, with around 71% recorded as being employed. Mr. Speaker, sir, between 2024 to 2026, Pacific Polytech TVET programs have shown strong growth. The number of graduates has increased from 878 in 2024 to 1,370 in 2026. Training programs are delivered across 14 locations, including rural areas, with more than 95% participation by indigenous communities. In addition, qualification programs have trained over 2,800 participants, expanding skills and opportunities across urban and rural communities. From 2023 to 25, a total of 165 students graduated from Navuso Agricultural School, Mr. Speaker, sir. Similarly, For the same period, in Montfort Boys Town, a total of 147 students graduated. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry will also review its strategic plan for 2024 to 2029 to advance a national future of work strategy. This will assess automation risks, forecast future skills demand, and prepare our workforce for emerging sectors. Mr. Speaker, productivity remains essential to sustainable wage growth and national competitiveness. The Ministry is processing the establishment of the Productivity Commission of Fiji as an independent advisory body focused on evidence-based productivity reform. Through our partnership with Asian Productivity Organization, we are embedding productivity-focused strategies into national planning. The Commission will help align wage growth, business sustainability, and national competitiveness. Mr. Speaker, climate change is also an employment challenge. It affects workers directly in sectors such as agriculture, fisheries, tourism, and coastal communities. We are developing a just transition framework to support workers affected by climate-related disruptions. This framework will identify vulnerable sectors, support retraining opportunities, and promote green job pathways while ensuring workers are part of the transition process. The Ministry is also working in partnership with other ministries on community-based climate resilient initiatives, including tree planting programs that engage communities. Allowances for the volunteers for these activities will be borne by our ministry. Mr. Speaker, the work of my ministry is grounded in tripartism. The partnership between government, employers, and workers' representatives. Freedom of association and collective bargaining are essential to maintain stable industry relations. Through strengthened mediation services and digital case management systems, we continue to resolve disputes efficiently and maintain industrial stability. Mr. Speaker, this was evident through the settlement of Fiji's longest strike by the Vatukola gold mine workers and the recent resolution of the Yangara pastoral dispute as well as the Bar Town Council dispute, amongst the numerous others which demonstrate the importance of good faith dialogue. Mr. Speaker, stable labour relations support investor confidence and strengthen national unity. Mr. Speaker, employment is dignity. Employment is stability. Employment is unity. Through labour law reform, labour mobility governance, inclusive labour market programs, productivity initiatives, and future of work planning, my ministry continues to implement the principles articulated by His Excellency. Unity in diversity, sustainability and resilience, and integrity in governance. We do this with accountability to this Parliament and to the people of Fiji. Mr. Speaker, before I conclude, I would like to briefly respond to some of the comments or concerns raised by our friends in the opposition. Honourable Joseph Nand, he raised the issue of challenges faced in relation to foreign workers and the difficulties experienced by some of our employers. Mr. Speaker, the challenges involving migrant workers arise from unscrupulous agents that are based in source countries who mislead workers, creating disputes for employers in Fiji. Now, these were issues that we have inherited a spillover from the previous administration because there were no sound policies. Mr. Speaker, sir, our government is addressing this by strengthening oversight. So what? Pursuing a government-to-government recruitment arrangement with the Government of India, ensuring foreign workers are recruited through recognized and regulated agencies. Mr. Speaker, sir, when you have a 16-year road, 3 years is not enough. Mr. Speaker, sir, I must also reiterate that poor planning in the past led to oversupply of workers, graduates in some sectors and a dire shortage in others. We have now got all planned, very clearly planned training programs, and we ensure that we are doing all our education programs according to the needs. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Speaker, sir, there has been a lot of talk about cost of living. Let me repeat that cost of living is actually mostly out of our hands when it is affected by external factors. If the price of goods goes up in the country of source, naturally it will go up. That is because that is where we buy it from. Mr. Speaker, sir, the best way to address is try and put more money in the pockets of people. And in that manner, we have increased the wages. The minimum wages, the sectorial wages, social welfare, and all other benefits. We have also assisted students. We have a lot of assistance is being provided to the poor and the needy through all the social schemes that we have to address the cost of living issue. They do not acknowledge that. Mr. Speaker, sir, apart from the minimum wages, the salary increase for the civil servants between 10 and 23%. That was the highest ever without a job evaluation exercise. I must repeat that. Without a job evaluation exercise, that's the highest increase ever given. We also removed the tenure, the contractual appointments, and we gave them tenure, and we increased the retirement age to 60. So they have another 5 years of working life. Mr. Speaker, sir, they had a job evaluation exercise in 2017. All those who got above 15% rise, their posts, although confirmed in the past, they had been there for several years, were declared vacant. And the posts were re-advertised, and many of those civil servants were demoted. And that was a very stressful period for the entire civil service, Mr. Speaker, sir. They also talk about instilling fear. Mr. Speaker, sir. Instilling fear is the legacy of the previous government. Instilling fear in the opposition, instilling fear in those who oppose from the trade union movement, anybody who opposed their policies, they were in some manner or other harassed and victimized. Whether it was detention, whether it was arrest, whether it was being taken in for questioning. All this was happening those days. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I also sympathize with my colleagues on the other side. They were also living in fear. They dared never question the decisions made by their bosses. They kept quiet. They were worried about their own jobs. We all know that all that was happening. Mr. Speaker, sir, that is the legacy that was left by their leaders. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's common knowledge that it was my way or the highway. Yeah. And it was very meekly followed by all of them. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government has brought in true democracy. It reinstated all the rights, whether it is workers, whether it is ethnic groups, anybody else, all the rights are fully restored now. People have freedom of expression, people have freedom to express themselves, people have freedom to demonstrate. This is what is democracy, Mr. Speaker said. There was no democracy in the past. It was, Mr. Speaker said, we have also heard a lot about migration. People leaving the country. Let me just quickly repeat to this House what has been stated by Honorable Prasad, the former Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker said, in 2017, 26,000 people migrated. In 2018, 27,000 people migrated. In 2019, 28,000 people migrated. In 2020, 8,500, that was the COVID period. In 2021, it was also COVID period. In 2022, 28,000 migrated. In 2023, 29,000 migrated. So there is no big difference in the migration during these years, whether it was during their reign or our reign. Because migration, people's mobility, people looking for greener pastures, is nothing new. It has always been there, and it will continue to happen. From New Zealand, Mr. Speaker said, 122,000 people migrated from New Zealand to Australia and to other countries. And that's a 4% jump from 24 to 25. So if people are saying that people are migrating just because this government has got bad policies, that is not true. That is a false statement. Very clear, Mr. Speaker. We have given the facts. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.